Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and you are joining me in the cockpit of the 2025 Aston Martin Vanquish, which features Apple CarPlay Ultra support. So this is the first time that I have ever used Apple CarPlay Ultra, and Aston Martin, I believe, is the first manufacturer to support Apple CarPlay Ultra. So this is a bit of a glimpse into the future of what you could expect phone integration to look like in vehicles going forward using Apple software. Now, I don't know if Google is necessarily going to get on the same level of integration with cars, because they already have Android Automotive, the Google-based infotainment systems that we see in a lot of vehicles. So I don't really see them using a smartphone to power the system when they can essentially just power the system using Android built in. And admittedly, while I do think this Apple CarPlay Ultra is cool, and we're going to kind of show what it's like here in the real world, I don't know if many brands are going to go all in on it either, because they're still going to have to develop their own vehicle infotainment systems, despite the Apple CarPlay being able to take over so many elements of it for customization. Because at the end of the day, not everybody has an Apple phone, and not everybody is going to want to plug, well, I guess you don't technically have to plug in, but not everybody's going to want to use their phone integrated into their car. Now that being said, you only need an Apple iPhone 12 or above running iOS 18.5 or above. Right now I have my trusty iPhone 13 mini, technically Alyssa's old one, that's why it's all cracked up, but it is running it perfectly well, and I don't believe it has to be plugged in. I have it plugged in right now just to be getting some extra juice, but no, you can see it running perfectly fine wirelessly as well. In fact, I think it has to be wireless, because when I was plugging it in, it wasn't giving me the option to pair via cable. It had to run wirelessly, so I find that interesting. But here it is. This is Apple CarPlay Ultra running on both the center touchscreen here for this Aston Martin Vanquish, as well as the gauge cluster. So let's take a look at the gauge cluster first. I believe the wheel is all the way up. Hopefully you all can see this okay. This is an Apple CarPlay Ultra screen, and I can customize it in a few different ways. I can scroll through, and you can see different screen layouts and sort of formats. This one a little bit more digital, showing us some bars for coolant temp and fuel and speed, and then going to a little bit more of a classic gauge look here. Now we're still getting all the core Aston Martin information because the vehicle's motor is not running. I'm getting all these warning signs, but you can still see our outside temperature and our gear selected. I can scroll up and down to get different information in this center screen. So we've got tire pressure, and interestingly, just like using an Apple product like a Mac, the scrolling is in the opposite direction that you might think it should be. So I find that kind of interesting. But you can also further customize these screens from the center infotainment. So let's take a look at that. If we go right here into settings and then themes, then I can scroll through in the center and change what I'm seeing up in front of me and say I want to customize this. I can choose different colors. In fact, it looks like, ooh yeah, there's kind of a multicolor, that's fun. Kind of a faded one, going back. Some different gauges there. Could set. And then again, customize. I could do more of a red theme. A lot of different color combinations. And then I can even choose this sort of map. Now, interestingly, I'm not getting the map coming up right now. Maybe if the motor was running, I would see it. We'll try that when we're driving here later on. So a lot of nice gauge customization right there. But let's take a further look at the center screen now here, running CarPlay Ultra. Now I'm sure there's going to be some things that I miss here that the deep dive tech enthusiasts are going to be familiar with, but I wanted to give you some of my first impressions here using Apple CarPlay Ultra in the real world. This center screen looks fairly similar to what you'd be used to with Apple CarPlay, although you might notice a few key differences. First of all, dark background. I don't seem to be able to get any sort of light colorful wallpaper like we have with standard Apple CarPlay. And you'll notice low right here. That is because my climate control is built in. So I can actually tap up there and bring up climate control screens. I can adjust my temp, my fan speed, my fan directions, and this is actually responding really quickly and nicely. Probably even quicker than the vehicle's built-in screen. And then I can click that, get a customized climate control screen. Oh, the car has turned itself off. Let me turn it back on. More settings. Ooh, warm cabin, warm feet, cold cabin, warm hands, ventilation. So some customized settings in there. Coming back home, let's bring up the, well, let's actually swipe to the side, same thing. You can see a few extra applications. We have that climate app that we saw earlier. What does radio do? That brings us, oh, look at that. That's actually the FM radio as well as AM. That's what does Sirius XM look like. Okay. All right. So again, all Apple's interface, but giving us real car functionality. You can see that even more when we click right here on vehicle. Look at this, Vanquish settings. So we've got a quick toggle to our Bowers & Wilkins settings, as well as, look at this. This is our treble, mid-range, and bass in Apple's own interface, because if we were to do it from the actual Aston Martin screen, it would look different. I'll try to show you that here in a moment. But we can come back and see even things like vehicle settings, turn our easy entry exit off and on, acoustic lock. These are actual vehicle settings that the car had built in. Display brightness, you can have it auto or manual. And back, and again, look, even on an iPhone 13 mini, responding very quickly. Very happy with that. Here are our CarPlay settings. Again, there's our themes that we saw earlier. Let's go with this one. Let's see, let's get one that we can change, customize the back, the wallpaper a little bit. So you can see all the wallpapers are still, I think for the center screen, they're always black. And then you can kind of customize what the wallpaper is for the gauge cluster. Yeah, because I don't see any other sort of wallpaper setting. Okay. So, oh, here we go, widgets. You can customize this screen on your iPhone in Settings, General, CarPlay. Hey, look at that. All right, little widget screen. So let's bring up the iPhone and go to Settings, CarPlay, Widgets. Ah, look at these. So we could put a calendar up there. Okay. Oh, and we swipe through them right here. All right, so we can add widget. We could do something like YouTube Music. Let's add that widget. And then that means we should be able to swipe down and see. There it is, YouTube Music. Okay. So that's pretty cool. Nice functionality added there. So far, this seems to be a nice evolution on Apple CarPlay. It's given me more functionality, more integration with the car, but keeping a very nice ease of use. That's something I've always really appreciated with Apple CarPlay, is how easily and straightforward it works. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time with the car. We're going to go on a little bit of a drive, and I'll wrap up this video with you showing you how it is in action. But promising things so far here from Aston Martin and Apple. Seeing Apple CarPlay Ultra in action here out on the road, my takeaway after spending time with this car and with this system is this is how car infotainment would work if it were designed by a true software company. And let's be honest, Apple is one of the top software companies in the world. They get their software down so well. No surprise here that it works so well in this car. I mean, this is being powered wirelessly off a 3.5-year-old iPhone, the base model iPhone at that time, aside from the SE, and yet the screen responds so wonderfully. The refresh rate is a little bit stuttery, I'll give it that. I bet you a newer phone, it would be working a little bit better, but everything so quick to get to and so easy. Look at this big settings menu. I can be driving a $500,000 car on the road here and still tapping around and getting to settings. I could adjust my balance, mid-range, and treble so much easier than I could in nearly any other car with a built-in infotainment system. And then look at that, I'm right back home. Same thing with our information in the gauge cluster in front of me here. I've got a nice looking gauge cluster, and then I can click, get through different screens here, kind of a little bit of a sub-menu, if you will. Big, easy to read information. And I can come back, I can switch to these gauge cluster screens, very quick and easy. It just makes so much sense and it works so well. I really want a manufacturer to partner up with somebody like Apple or Google or some sort of advanced software company like this and give us an integrated system that works as well as this does. Because as much as I love how this Apple CarPlay Ultra system works, like I said earlier in the video, not everybody wants to hook their phone up to their car, not everybody has an iPhone that they can use with a system like this, and not every manufacturer is going to want to make their vehicles and their systems work with Apple CarPlay Ultra. But this is the type of software experience that we as consumers should be demanding from auto manufacturers. It's absolutely embarrassing that you get into something like a brand new Subaru and you're paying that much money for a brand new car and you're getting such a woeful, unintuitive, unresponsive infotainment system that takes up half of your center display, when Apple could come in here and put their system together and it works so beautifully on pretty much any sort of hardware that you would throw at it. Oh, very nicely done there, Hyundai, merging in front of us. So I'm really satisfied with Apple CarPlay Ultra. I want it to come to more vehicles, and I want auto manufacturers to start realizing that you don't need a very complex system. I get a new Mercedes product with M-Bucks. I'm like, yeah, okay, this system can do so much, but I don't care because it's also unintuitive and takes so many steps and doesn't work well on the road. I get into something like this Apple CarPlay Ultra system, and it just works, and it works well. That's how car infotainment should be. I do need to point out one quick flaw though, and it might just be vehicle specific, but there wasn't a way that I could find to access my USB drive within Apple CarPlay Ultra. So I actually had to disable CarPlay in order to access my USB drive to do the sound test here in the Vanquish. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on this Aston Martin Vanquish, check the link below for our review on the Topher. We've also got a dedicated review of the Bowers and Wilkins sound system. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.